7 goals and 4 assists in 9 Premier League starts so far this season for Mohamed Salah. He has banished the ghost of last season's slow start, back to normal, business as usual. Actually, that's not really true. The goals and assists might be flowing and the production looks great, but Salah's role in this Liverpool team is clearly changing. So let's explore how it's changing and perhaps more importantly, why? I'm going to start with a very simple stat that caught my eye, very intriguing, and I think it really exemplifies what the change in Salah's game so far has been. This is not normal. Non-penalty XG for Mohamed Salah, 3.3 so far this season in the Premier League. His expected assisted goals tally is higher at 4.4. Never in the history of Salah's Liverpool career has this happened. This, on the left-hand side here from 2017-2018, is a much more normal look at what you would expect Salah to have. Massively outweighing the assists is the non-penalty goals. What do you think of when you think of Mohamed Salah on the pitch? You think of him shooting, you think of him making a difference, you think of him scoring goals. But this season, the picture has changed. So this is significant because it's different. So what's going on? What's changed? Has Mohamed Salah suddenly got to the age of 31, having conquered the Premier League from a shooting perspective for the last 6-7 years and gone, you know what, I'm going to be charitable. I'm just going to give everyone else the chances. Let's dig into that. And in order to figure that out, we have to look at a few things. We'll start with shooting volume. How is it changing for Salah? And you can see over the last 3 seasons, a very steady decline in shots per 90 for Salah. So 2 seasons ago, he's at 4.33 shots per 90, very healthy tally. Then the following season, he drops off an entire shot per 90. It might not sound like a lot, but for Salah, losing 1 shot per 90, that is quite significant. And again, this season, early stages, but we're down again, down to 3.02. Now, I have to give him the credit here. His goals per shot is outstanding. Despite the fact that he is taking fewer shots and therefore having fewer opportunities to score goals, he's just as efficient. In fact, he's ticked up above efficiency so far this season. Really impressive. And if you take into account as well the fact that the average distance of his shots from goal is rising as well from 15.8 or 15.1 up to 18, he is being really, really efficient here. Like, this is really impressive stuff considering he's getting fewer opportunities to make the difference in front of goal. So Salah's shots are declining. That is the first clue as to something's changing in his game. Next, let's take a look at his game involvement. Let's look at the touch maps, where they're coming from, how many of them there are, and let's ascertain just how important he is to this team. And we've got the last 4 seasons here going left to right and then left to right again. And let's just take these 2 as the example here. 2 seasons ago, 24.9 touches here on this right-hand side. This season down to 16.6. The first time I looked at this, I started to try and figure out where those touches were going. I assumed that they were moving infield, backwards, somewhere. I assumed they were going somewhere. I was wrong. The clue is right here, 55.9 touches per 90 2 seasons ago, down to 44.3 this season. The touches aren't moving, they're disappearing. He is literally less involved in Liverpool's games this season compared to how he was a couple of seasons ago. And that means, of course, that if the shots are going down and the touches are going down, you could make an argument that he's becoming a little bit less important in this Liverpool setup. Finally, let's go to the shot locations. Where are these shots coming from? This is Salah's bread and butter. As I said, when you picture Salah, you think of him teeing off on goal, taking a shot from probably about this area, isn't it? Top left here, this lovely bright cluster of shots, 16.5 yards out from goal, just right of centre, cutting in on his left foot and curling it towards goal. When I think of Salah, I think of him taking a shot from literally this position on the pitch. But over the next 3 seasons, it's got a little dimmer, so there's not quite a strong collection of shots in the same area. It's started to move around a little bit here. And this season, bottom right, it started to leak quite far wide as well. And you notice again, the average distance from goal these shots are being taken is up to 18 yards. It's basically in this general area. So the shots are less concentrated, they're leaking out wide and a bit further out. And I think his role looks a little bit muddled there. I think that's what we associate with Salah, but this is a bit more questionable. What is going on? What is happening on the pitch? Well, let's take this screenshot from the Merseyside derby. To be honest, you can use any game in the Premier League so far this season to have a look at this, but I'm just going to point out to you exactly where Mohamed Salah is on the pitch. He's over here all the way on the touchline. Now, he's a winger. He always has been a wide forward or a winger. It's not an alien concept for him to be playing on the touchline or wide, but one thing you'll notice this season particularly, and leaking into last season, is that Salah is spending an awful lot of time in a genuinely very wide position, something like that. And you'll notice in this scenario, Liverpool have got 4 midfielders in the central area. Trent is actually here. Usually he's here where Szoboszlai is, but you could maybe flip them in your mind. But if Trent is here, then Mohamed Salah is essentially there because someone has to be wide. You cannot play football in a situation where no one is using the right flank. And where that may used to have been Trent, it's now Salah. Okay, let's map that out on the board, show you exactly what I mean. This is the Liverpool 11 that started the Merseyside derby. It's a 4-3-3 on paper, but as we know by now, Trent has started to move inside into central midfield. He joins Alexis McAllister in the double pivot. That pushes these two up here. It creates the midfield box that we keep talking about. I'm a bit bored of it, but it's certainly happening across the top level, so we have to keep talking about it. Konate shifts over a little bit, creates a back three, so there's your 3-2 shape. And then when Trent is here in the centre of the pitch, well, someone's got to play wide. So Diaz is more than comfortable over here because he gets to cut in on his favoured foot. Salah obviously is the same, moving out to the right-hand side. But if Salah were to play, let's say, in the more narrow position that we've tended to associate him with, and let's say that Luis Diaz is Sadio Mane of years past and they were doing that as a front three, well, you can't just leave the entire right flank empty, can you, if Konate's tucking in? If you're a top team, more often than not, you're coming against a team that is not as good as you. So you need to make the pitch as wide as possible, spread them out, and try to make it so that you can create those avenues for you to pass through them. Doing this would be, frankly, insane. So Jurgen Klopp's smart enough to figure that out. He doesn't do that. And when Trent is flicking inside, he asks Salah to move all the way to the right and Luis Diaz all the way to the left. Now, coincidentally, this is really helping Luis Diaz because with Trent in this position here, he's actually able to play these ridiculous cross-field passes into Luis Diaz, who's moving into space. The pass is perfect, the run is perfect, Diaz takes it down and shuttles towards goal. And this angle really suits Trent and Diaz. Obviously, we're not talking about the same angle here for Mohamed Salah because Trent is on this side of the pitch. So Salah gets starved out a little bit there and he doesn't get the advantage of what Luis Diaz gets. So just to compare that from seasons past, here's an old Liverpool 11. It's a general one that you might have seen 2 or 3 years ago back in their absolute peak. It was still a 4-3-3. It looks the same in basic shape, but obviously it operated slightly differently. Mane and Salah were playing those much more narrow roles. Firmino dropped in a little bit and the actual interplay between the two was really, really slick, and Firmino was bringing Salah into positions where he could move into these narrow areas and get towards goal in this specific area that we highlighted with the shot map. Obviously, with that in place, the wide areas had to be occupied by the fullbacks, which they did. Trent and Robertson all the way up here, slinging in crosses, and ultimately the central midfield three were just there as kind of like a screen, a barrier. If the ball popped out, they just win it and push it back out to Robertson, push it back out to Trent, and they would recycle the ball back in. They create all this pressure. The ball would probably fall to Salah in the box, and he'd probably stick it in the back of the net. So the wide areas were occupied by the fullbacks. The forwards go nice and narrow. They get into goal-scoring positions. They get within the width of this 6-yard box at times, and the goals start to flow. If you're in this position, you're taking more shots than you are creating chances. However, how Liverpool are currently set up, with Salah pushing out all the way to the right-hand side, he's having to take on some more of that creative responsibility, and as a result of being further away from goal, he's not taking as many shots and he's not as involved. So beyond that positional tweak for Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's always been there have been a couple of other changes too, by the form of new faces. And we start with Darwin Núñez, who arrived just over a year ago and could barely be more different as a striker profile to Roberto Firmino. So when you change the profile of your number 9 so significantly, of course there is going to be a knock-on effect and you are going to play differently. So where Firmino used to drop in and maybe link play and feed Salah quite a lot, he did the same with Mane as well. He was really half number 9 and half number 10. Darwin is a striker. He likes to run in behind and rustle up centre-backs and play with a real physicality, and he plays in very direct, straight lines. He's a sprinter, he's a muscler, he is quite incredible physically, but obviously the link play is nowhere near as refined as Roberto Firmino, and ultimately what he wants to do from playing up front is move over into this kind of channel. So when he wants to make that run outside the centre-back and move to this side so that he can use his right foot to shoot across goal. We've seen that goal a few times. Against Newcastle was probably the best one, but he's done it a number of times. He's really good at that smacked low finish, really quick release. And that happens from this area. So if you've got him moving over here rather than down here, well, this again just impinges on Salah's area of the pitch ever so slightly and just forces him maybe a little bit wider, possibly forces him to again be a little bit more creative because he's now servicing Darwin rather than him being serviced by Firmino. And again, it's just another tweak. It's something you have to get used to, but it's changed his game. And there's another statistic that kind of backs this up. Mohamed Salah is way up on through balls per 90 this season than in any other campaign that he's had with Liverpool in history. Apart from maybe here, he was quite close at 0.59 and 21-22, but right now this season, 0.81 through balls per 90. He's actually in the top 10 of Premier League players for this statistic, which again, not what you consider with Mohamed Salah, particularly given his goal record. But maybe this is just evidence that he is having to move towards that more creative profile ever so slightly because he needs to service Darwin. Darwin is the player that they are now feeding. They're changing the profile of the attack, and Salah is part of that in a way that we possibly didn't expect before. The other new face is Dominic Szoboszlai. Arrived about 12 months after Darwin. Amazing early impact on this Liverpool team. He's hugely involved in everything they do, courtesy of being in a central area, so gets lots of touches, lots of involvement. He's in the thick of the action. But it's amazing the way he's been able to set the tone for Liverpool this season. Off the ball, the work rate is absolutely unbelievable. And he sort of conjures up memories of that peak Liverpool team from a couple of years ago, you know, the heavy metal stuff, the gegenpressing, the workhorse stuff in midfield. He is fitting that bill. In addition to that, he has become a huge creative force in this team too, responsible for so many chances created and so much of what Liverpool are doing so well. And here's the evidence, courtesy of our friends at Opta. Dominic Szoboszlai, 62 total shots, chances created, or involvements in attacking sequences in total. Again, it's a little bit higher than Mohamed Salah. No one here is saying that Salah's not involved, but Szoboszlai is top of the table. Shots, chances created, genuine involvement in play. He is the guy to go to right now. Again, because he's playing in the central area, he's naturally involved in all of this, but he's got creativity, he's got set piece threat. He's an incredible footballer. And there's no doubt about it, Klopp is leaning on him in this new build and new look midfield and asking him to do quite a lot and carry this load because that's what he's good at and that is what he's doing. So, it's all changed for Mohamed Salah. He is playing wider and as a result of some tactical tweaks and some new faces, he's less involved in the game and he's taking fewer shots. And to his credit, he's just as efficient and deadly as ever, but he's getting fewer and fewer opportunities to do so as the face of this Liverpool team changes. So this Mohamed Salah is not the one that we're used to watching. Still good though.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.